Hello everyone. How's it going? We'll wait a few seconds because there is a delay between my computer and your chat, and I want to first make sure that the quality of the video is fine, my voice is at the right volume, and all this. And once you confirm this, we can start right away. Should probably buy some music to play here. Yeah, okay. Okay, sound is good, video is good. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, here we have Unity 2019.4, which is the latest LTS Unity version. This is what you'll get. So I already have installed Game Creator, and the only module that I have is this one, the Traversal module, and the Traversal examples. My idea here is to go over the demo that I built a few weeks ago. We can go over it. You can ask any questions you have. Then I will explain how to build something similar. We'll explain what the obstacle components are, what the climbable components are, the climbable clips and obstacle clips. So basically how to create all the traversal module, and then we'll show how to connect all these different obstacle and climbable elements together to build a level like Uncharted or Assassin's Creed or whatever. And at the end of the stream, if there is enough time, I would like to modify, for example, the ladder. That is a question that many users have asked, and that is that when you go up in a ladder, the character just simply climbs it, but when you go down, it slides through the ladder. We'll see how to modify this ladder so that the character climbs up and climbs down, following the same speed. If we have time, of course. So let's get started with the demo. The demo is located not inside, it's inside the Traversal examples, and it's this scene here. It's called example 1. So this computer is a bit of a potato, so excuse me if the frame rate isn't optimal. I see some questions here. When is it going to be released? The idea is to send it to the asset store review team this week. I still need to create all the promotion and images and all this stuff, but once that's ready, I'll just send it to review, and it's up to them if it's going to take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks until it's available. Okay. Oh, we cannot see? Oh, shoot. Forgot to make the transition. Okay. Okay, sorry. I forgot to make the transition. Quite new to these streaming things. Okay, seems like everything is fine now. Let's get started. So I'll just go back a few minutes, and the idea is that when you download the Traversal module, you go to the module manager, which is here, module manager, and whoopsie, we start with errors. Okay, this is something I need to fix. So basically, you open the module manager. This usually happens when you live stream, and you'll get to download the Traversal module. The Traversal module has this folder here inside plugins, game creator, Traversal, and the Traversal examples. And we'll just review this one. When you open the Traversal examples, you'll see there's a scene called example 1. Double click it, and this will appear. This from here, which is the same demo you can play on the demos page for the game creator. I'll put the link down in the description. Oh, no longer a MacBook. Yeah, I have the MacBook. This is my girlfriend's computer, which is kind of a potato one. So the frame rate may vary because of that. So let's click play and see what we have here. So the character can move in any direction. With the mouse, I move the camera. And when we approach these blue things, I can press space, and the character will automatically vault the obstacle or pass through, or whatever it's called to do. There are two color codes, as you can see. There is these blue things, which are called obstacles, and the red things that are called climbables. We'll explain later the difference between them, because it's quite important. But for now, we'll just go over the demo and see what we have here. So these obstacles here, again, we press space, it goes in one way. We can go the other way, press space, and it automatically vaults over it. At the end, it just runs a bit to keep the momentum over. And the same with this wall run. You can go here, press space, it traverses the wall run, and then we get to get the hold automatically onto this climbable obstacle. Sorry, climbable element. That's the difference. Blue ones are obstacles, the red ones are climbables. And the difference basically is that obstacles, when you try to bolt an obstacle, it plays an animation and it automatically passes through them. The climbables, you enter in kind of a state, and when you are in a climbable element, you move around with it, with the arrow keys, or traversing it automatically, or something like that. Let me check the comments and see if there is anything. Just a discussion between Mac and Windows. Okay, nothing new. So, the climbable elements also have these reachable directions. When you, for example, you go up and the character tries to go up and find something that is above him, he can go down, he can go to the left, and he can go to the right. In this case, we only have one thing that it's down, so we can press the down key, press space, and it grabs the next element that is below. And each climbable element has its own set of animations, which are built in the Traversal module. You can use these ones to get started with your game, or you can create your own to further customize and tailor the animations for your game. And here we can jump these ones. Here there was a question whether this was automatic or we had to set up a different climbable element. These are three separate climbable elements. So if I pause the game here, I think it's Ctrl-Shift-P. Oh shit! So when I press Shift, the character automatically lets go of the element. So as you can see, we have to restart the demo. Oh, and I should probably maximize this so you guys can see it better. Probably. Can climb irregular geometrical objects? Yes, you can. By default, all climbable elements go along a straight line, but this straight line can be on any inclination you want. You can go vertical obstacles, you can climb horizontal obstacles, you can climb even diagonal, or even tilted in either direction. We'll see more about that later. So we were here. And these are three elements. So we have the first segment, which is a braced climbable ledge. Then we have this braced hanging ledge, which makes the character walk slowly and with the hanging legs. And then it automatically connects with another climbable element that is called hanging braced. And that's basically it. All this is completely automatic. So we can go up another time, and we get to see this Sekiro-esque grapple hook, which I thought was fun to create, so I did it. And then we have this balance plank. That's the word. So the balance plank is very similar to the ledge. The only difference is that the movement is on the zeta and x axis instead of the vertical one. So you can tilt to your right, you can tilt to your left, you can go back, you can go forward, and you can grab onto other things that are in front of you, on the sides, or in any direction actually. So we get to see this, and this is the cover mechanic, which is all these red things are the same exact component: ladders, cover mechanics, climbable elements. All these are the same component with a different set of animations, and we'll see later how to create them. And we can see how this connects to this one. Again, we can see how to turn corners. And here is the typical 3x3 grid where you can make a character this up, to the right, to the left, down, and all the other possible directions, like in diagonal, or it completely adapts to the obstacles surrounding it. And here we have a simple ladder. You can go up, you can go down, and that's where we'll try to change this animation so that it goes up and it goes down using the same animation, so it doesn't slide down. And again, if you press shift, the character lets go of the ladder and you can continue moving on. And of course, if you are halfway, you can press shift and it will simply let go of it. We go up a bit, we stand here, and let me quickly check the comments and see if there is any question. When that's coming out, I'll repeat this. The idea is to send it to the asset store review team throughout this week, and it's going to come out maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks top from now. Can you fall from the plank? Yes, you can. If you let go from the plank, actually, each climbable component does allow you to specify whether you can let go of this obstacle or not. Because, for example, as we saw, oops, sorry, this should have not happened, but it's actually a good thing that happened, because we can see this. So we have this character here, and if you press shift, the character simply falls through and the level restarts. And while I try to go there, I'll continue explaining this. So each climbable element by default allows you to let go of it, but sometimes, for example, when you are shimming through a ledge, you may not want the character to be able to let go, so you can just there's a checkbox, and you just I think it's called can drop, and you just uncheck it and the character won't be able to let go of that. So we go here, we go through the balance plank again, and I'm not going to let go now. We go through here, play this level a lot of times. So for example, here I'm pressing the shift, oops, and I thought I couldn't let go here, but I think I forgot maybe this one. Okay, well, I forgot to uncheck this button here, but you were not supposed to let go here because it breaks the immersion, because now you can run through the ledge. So I'll just press space and continue moving on. And we'll go here, we'll go up the ladder and see if any comments. Can you restart from the last obstacle? Yeah, well, basically the restart mechanic, there is a big trigger at the bottom of this level, and when it detects that the player collides with it, it uses the teleport action and moves it right there. There's a marker there that allows you to teleport, so it's basically that. The plank can be placed intersect. Yes, all climbable elements can be connected with each other, so you can jump from one to the other. The only requisite is that there's a tiny bit space between one and the other one, because if not, the character will do like how to call it, if the player can automatically move to another object, to another climbable element that it's next to it at the exact same position, there won't be any transition. So probably when you have to balance planks, you want the character to jump from one to the other one, and you'll have to at least separate them just a tiny bit. So to wrap up this demo, we can stand here, press space, and the character will jump onto this zipping line and go all the way down. The good thing about this zipping line is that you could even create a zipping line that that makes the character fall at the end of it, and at the end of it there is another zipping line that if the character is more or less near it and presses the space, grabs the other zipping line and follows through another path. So it's quite flexible in my opinion. And this one that just restarts the level, makes a jump, comes here, and you get to start again. So let's exit here, see if there's any questions. Can you see this? Actually, no, I would say that right now you can make enemies have climbable elements, but just because I haven't tested this now, so maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that if you grab onto a ledge and then you have this ledge moved, the character won't follow the ledge. This is something I plan to do in the future, but not on the first release. There are a bunch of things I want to change in the future, nothing that breaks the game, but there will be some slight changes, or improvements rather than changes. So now that we've seen this, let's take a look at the first component, which is the obstacle, the blue one. Instead of this one, this is more interesting, and this is the boltable component. So no, before we get started, so the traversal module comes with a built-in number of obstacles and climbable elements. You can create your own later on, but here's the full list of climbable and obstacles that you have. Let me see. Prefabs here. So when you have installed your traversal module, you can go here and game creator, traversal, and prefabs, and this is the full list of elements you can drop in your scene. Just grab it, drop it, and it simply works. So you have the balance plank, the cover crouch and cover stand, which are the ones here, the grapple hook. These two and these two from here are basically the same. The only difference is that you can move along the one, and the other one is much shorter, so the character or the player doesn't have enough space to move from one way to the other. This jump one way and jump two way means that you can make the character jump from one position to another one, but it can't go back. And the jump two way basically means that the character can be standing here, jump here, but he presses space, he can jump back to the same position. Ladder, pretty easy. Mantle high, which is the one we found here, which is basically like the one we found at the beginning, this one, but with a different animation where the character jumps higher in the air and grabs the ledge. Then we have the bolt, which is the one that we're going to take a look now. And finally, we have the wall run and the zip line. Let's see, any questions? Is there a rope climbable? No, there is no rope climbable for now. It is super easy to create. It's basically it's duplicating the ladder one and using a different set of animations. It's super easy. In fact, I wanted to make this live stream based on taking the ladder and converting it into a rope climbing, but first I wanted to make a more introductory live stream, and maybe later on we can create something more unique. But let's start from the beginning, and yeah, I'm open to make another live stream with more advanced features for the traversal module, because it's frankly quite flexible. I think there's a question here that it's quite interesting. So shooters usually have these cover mechanics, like in Uncharted or these games where the character goes undercover and then he can peek through and shoot at the different enemies. Right now, I can't imagine doing that with the shooter module, but I'm looking at ways into doing this, and we'll see. I can say now, so I can say now that it's not possible because I can't figure out how to do it, but I would love to find a way to do it. So stay tuned, and I'll try to have this for a future update. Yeah, future version or future update. Okay, so let's see. The first one, the obstacle, which is this one here, and it's this from here. I'll just isolate it in prefab mode so you can see. Maybe the YouTube compression doesn't show it, but there are these green lines here, and these ones here, which are basically triggers, and these triggers are set to when the player is inside this zone and presses a certain key, it activates the obstacle. So we'll see that right away. So we have the bolt element and we have this obstacle clip. We'll go over all the different fields in just a second. And we have this trigger here, for example, which is called on player enter key, and when the player presses space, it calls this action, which is this one here, and this action, all it does is activates the obstacle vault, which is this one from here, and this trigger does exactly the same with the same vault obstacle. So activating obstacles is simply as using an action and activating it. And here you can see, let me close this one so the gizmos don't appear on the scene view. So something like this. Okay, so we have the obstacle clip, which is what we're going to see next. This one defines the behavior and all the animations that this obstacle will use. We have the delay in, which means that when the player, for example, activates this obstacle and tries to bolt, you can add a cooldown or timeout before the character actually starts bolting this obstacle. In case of bolting, when a person tries to bolt an obstacle, it usually uses the momentum of the run to bolt over it. So there's usually a delay of 0 seconds. But imagine you're trying to jump or make a big jump upwards. The character usually wants to charge the jump and then fly up. Then you would have maybe a delay of 0.2 seconds, something like that. So if you want to modify this, up to you. The traverse mode, there are quite a lot of options here, and it's basically this basically tells how the character traverses this obstacle. In this case, it tells it to go from the farthest edge. It tells it to go to the farthest edge. So from the player's position to the farthest edge. And edges are these ones. And this is the obstacle path. You have these 0.0 and 0.1. You can create as many as you want, but obstacles usually have 1 point or 2 points at most. I can't imagine another case where you have like 5 points, something like that. Usually are quite simple. So these obstacle points are this blue dot here, not sure if you can see it, and this red dot here. The blue dot, I think it's the position, the 0.0, and you can modify this one. You can make it go here, or you can move it up, or move it somewhere else. I think it was 0, 0, -1. Yes. And this basically tells, this traverse mode tells the character to go to the farthest edge. So if the player is standing here, it will try to go to this red dot. And if the player is here, it will try to go to the blue dot. These different options allow you to configure the obstacle and behave differently. So for example, if you want to select this one to first point, the character always will go to this point here. So even if the player is here, he'll go here, and if the player is here, he'll try to go here. Hope this makes sense. Let's see. Can jump while on the wall run. No, that's the thing with the obstacles. Obstacles, a character activates an obstacle, and during the whole animation of that obstacle, that it usually lasts up to 1 second, something like that, the character can't interact with anything else. So, however, what you can do is that a character wall runs, and at the edge you could have a trigger, for example, that detects when the player presses the space key, and if the player does that, perform a jump somewhere else. If not, the character could fall. In the demo we have here, actually, the wall run, what it does is that the character, once it reaches this point here, as you can see, this is the point number 1. So there's the point 0, which is this one, and this is the point 1. When the character or the player reaches this point, it automatically connects with this ledge from here. Okay. So going back to the bolt obstacle here. Sorry if I mess this up, because sometimes I say climbable when it's an obstacle and an obstacle when it's a climbable. Just make sure that the blue elements are obstacles and red ones are climbables. So here we were. And yeah, this is basically it. It's quite easy to understand this. So if you go to this from first to last point, means that the character won't detect which one is the furthest one. It will just go from this point to this point. It doesn't matter if the player is here, it's here, it's here, or it's here. It will just follow this path here. Point 0, then point 1. Same you can do on reverse, from last point to the first point, and from the closest to the farthest edge. So if the player is here, he'll go this one, this point, and if the player is around here, he'll go to this one. And this was placed to last point. No, sorry, to farthest edge. So this is basically an obstacle. We'll see this before going to the climbables, because climbables are a bit more complicated. We'll see how the obstacle uses the obstacle clip to fit animations into this obstacle. So the obstacle component has a obstacle clip, and if we select this clip, double click it, we have all these options here, which are the rotation of the obstacle. In this case, it will make the character rotate towards the destination. So for example, if the character is here and wants to traverse that way, it will rotate the character that way. So it doesn't bolt, for example, backwards. If the character was facing backwards, it will always rotate towards the destination point. That's the rotation duration. So the character just doesn't snap towards the rotation. It just follows through around in 0.25 seconds. This is ignore collisions. Obstacles usually ignore collisions because maybe some of you have played Sekiro, and I think on the initial versions of Sekiro, when you grappled hook onto an obstacle, if there was a tree in between, the character would get stuck. So to avoid this, you can check these ignore collisions, and it will simply ignore any collisions that are in front of the player, and will just go towards the destination. Or for example, if you are bolting and there is another character bolting at the same time, they both will overlap instead of just getting stuck or playing some fancy or weird animations. This is the animation. You can choose, as always, to play a animation clip or a character state. Most of the obstacles, because they have a start time and an end time, the animation will be an animation clip. In this case, for example, it's Traversal bolt, and it's this one here. Just does this. So pretty simple. And these ones here, I prefer to talk about them later, because there's the exact same concept for climbables, and it's much more easier to understand if we take a look when we explain what climbable elements are. The tweak movement, this was added at last time for for the, how is that called, the wall run, because what this does basically is to add a small offset throughout the whole movement of the character while traversing an obstacle. So for example, when you bolt a obstacle like this one, you don't want the character to move to the sides or something like that, but when the character wall runs, you maybe want the character to move upwards just a bit and then fall down. In that case, we can take a look at the wall run here, and this one, you see there is a curve here, and this is basically telling the character to move a bit up and then slowly go down. Not sure if you can see it. It's this curve here. You can click this, modify it. For example, doing something like this, the character would start going up and then quickly going down. But I think something like this works much better. And if we go back here, we have the transition in, transition out. This just means how the character blends into the new animation, like this one, for example. You usually have low numbers, like transitioning in 0.1 second, and the transition out, it's much smoother, so it blends to the running animation that comes afterwards. Let me see if there is some other questions. Okay, no questions so far. Feel free to ask me anything. I'll just try to watch the chat anytime I can. Let's see. Okay, so the obstacles part should be pretty clear. There is an obstacle component. Let's see this one, for example. The wall run. The wall run is composed of, actually this one is a bit special. It has two obstacle components. One is for going to the left and the other one is going to the right. And the reason why the vault has all these together inside the same obstacle is because the animation playing, the animation of the character going that way is different from the character going this way. So the animation is mirrored. So in order to accommodate for this, I had to create two obstacles. One is this one and the other one is this one. And I deactivated this one because I didn't want the character to move that way. So it just moves this way, grabs the ledge and just can't come back. But if you want it to come back, activate it and that's it. And if you can, we can see here that it's pretty much the same. So it has two edges, one is here, the other one is here. It uses a wall run right clip and it goes to the farthest edge. So if the character is here, enters the trigger, presses space, it goes to this edge from here, which is the furthest away. And the same for the other one. It's exactly the same. And the only thing that changes is the wall run left clip, which has a slight movement here and has a different animation, which in this case is a character state. So there's a question, how easy it is to replace animations? Replacing animations is quite easy, at least for the obstacles. The climbable elements, it's a bit more not difficult, I would say, but it's more cumbersome. We'll see that later for the ladder. But here, for example, if you want to change the animation for the bolt, you select the bolt, animations are inside bolt clip, so double click it, you have this animation. So if you want, for example, to the character to, instead of playing this animation from here, which is the character vaulting, we could, for example, make the character play an animation that I have here. For example, which one would it be? So the wall run right, for example. It won't make sense, but you'll see how easy it is to change the animations. So this vault element here has a new animation, which is the wall run right, and we can just come here, press space, and the character will play the wall run animation. So you can see it tries to grab an invisible wall on the right, and that's it. That's everything. One thing that is worth noting here is that the animation it doesn't matter the duration of the animation. So what matters is that this obstacle has a transition time, and this transition time, for example, it's 1 second. If the animation that you want to play has a duration of 2 seconds, it will be squashed into a 1 second animation. So if you have this bolt, or we're going to massacre this one, if we want this vault to, instead of vaulting and stopping here, we want it to stop around here. Imagine this is a very large vaulting element. We could simply go here and increase the size of this value to something like 6. And as you can see, the endpoint now is here. So if we hit play, the character will come here, we'll press space, and it will try to vault this obstacle, but it will go all the way up to here. And you will see that the animation is stretched to move up to this point. So we go there, press space, we can click here, and as you can see, the character moved up to this point. And because the animation transition is set to duration, let me just exit blade mode. I'm used to the Mac. No, it's not here, it's here. So the transition from moving to one point to the other one, it's set to a fixed duration of 0.55 seconds. So it doesn't matter if this goes from here to here or it goes from here to that point from there. It will always take 0.55 seconds. If you have a very large elements, you may want to change this into a speed so that the character moves at a constant speed. So if it has, if you've set a speed of 5 units per second, if you have an obstacle that is 5 units large, it will just take 1 second to reach it. But if that same obstacle is 10 units of length, it will take 2 seconds to reach it instead of the same duration. But in this case, I think vaulting obstacles is much easier to adjust the animations using this fixed duration. And of course, you can have all these easing functions in case you want to really polish the animation you want to play, so that in this case, for example, it's quad in. Quad in means that the character starts slowly, and at the end it finishes with a bit of an acceleration. And this is basically the same values, but for the opposite direction. Let's see if there is any other question. Extracting root motion. In this case, sorry, I'll read the question. So in the melee module, you have the option to extract root motion to make the characters move and use the root motion data to, for example, move the character while attacking. Here, you don't need to extract root motion because all the motion comes from this path. So all movements are in straight lines, and it may seem counterintuitive or I wouldn't say how to say the word, but most of the obstacles are traversed in one direction, because you usually lose control of your body when you try to vault an obstacle or something like that. And when you lose control of your body, you are using your momentum, and momentum is always a linear movement, so it's just straight line. Just like wall running, for example, it's a straight line. The only thing you can do is to slightly move the character upwards and then fall back down. So if there are any other questions, no, so far. Okay, so let's move back to let's move to the climbable elements. And climbable elements, the name maybe it's not perfect, because climbable elements include climbable like this one, the ledges, but it also includes ladders, and it includes where is that one? Here, balance planks, and it also includes covers or ledges you can shimmy. But that's the only main I could come up. So If someone has a different idea, please do let me know. And we will start with these ones from here because I think it's quite interesting and the most complete ones. So there was a question before, or I heard the question some days ago, and asking whether this was a whole element or it was split into different parts. It's split into different parts, and we will see now. So we have this first element here, which is this one from here, and we can move it up or down. We have this other element, which is the character when it's hanging, and we have this other element here, which is the character braced again. And this and these are the same, but this one is different from these two, and the only difference is that the character has a slower speed when traversing these obstacle climbable elements. I knew this would happen, and the animation is different. The legs are hanging to give the impression that the character is really struggling, moving just using the strength of his arms or her arms. And so here we have the let's first see the anatomy of this climbable element. So this is the prefab you drop into your scene, and as we can see, we'll isolate it here so it's easier to see, and we'll move this down to have more room. So basically what we have is the climbable element. It also has a climbable clip. We'll see later how this works. And we have this geometry, which is basically just a cube, this red cube here to show something. And we have this trigger. This trigger is what executes the climbable obstacle. So it's pretty similar to the obstacle trigger, which detects when the player is around here and it presses the space key. It will execute this action. With this action is very similar to the other one, but instead of executing an obstacle component, it executes a climbable component. So executing the climbable component, we have here the settings. The climbable clip, we'll see now how this works. We have this aforementioned can drop checkbox. If this is ticked, means that the player can drop from this ledge. If not, the character won't be able to drop, which in this case I think should be locked, but anyway, we'll leave it here, and later on when I build the demo or polish the demo, I will see if I should have this checked or not. Another difference with the obstacle components are that the paths always there's only one straight line path, so you can create rounded paths, and this is seen here. You have the climbable A path and the climbable B. This is basically 2 points. This is point A and this is point B. This is point A, this is point B, and I can move this, and as you can see, that moves with this, and on the Z also. However, moving these edges from here might be a bit difficult, so what I did was add this button, which is called Enter Edit Mode, and when I select it, you see these gizmos from here, and you can just simply drag them and move them around. The climbable element, you can build the levels much better. So let me Control Z this. Okay. So let's exit edit mode, and you have a position and you have an angle. The angle is represented by this blue line here. It goes from 0 to 360, and as you can see, if I move this, the blue line rotates and up to 360 or 0, which is exactly the same. And this angle means that if the character grabs this object, it will face the direction that that this blue line points to. So for example, in this case, the character would point that way. And if anyone is asking this, no, but I will ask this. We can have different angles here. So for example, we could have this point pointing in that direction, and we could have this point here pointing to another direction, for example this one, And the character, when it moves from this point to this point, it would slowly rotate towards this direction, and the same going backwards. So you can really have the character turn corners that way. Let's see, this was 0, I think. This was -1, 0, and 0. Okay, that should be all. And this is the bread and butter of the traversal module. So the climbables have this commute from A and commute from B, and this has these reachable elements. Let's first, I don't know what's going to be easier. So when you have, let's see, when you have an obstacle here, you usually want an obstacle to connect to another one. So using the commute from A and commute from B allows you to seamlessly move from one climbable element to another one, which can be an obstacle or a climbable element. Doesn't matter. You can reach different obstacles or traversable components from either an obstacle or a climbable element, and this means that you don't require the character to jump to another obstacle. So it commutes. The character reaches this position from here and will automatically connect with this one and start moving that way. The same with here. When the character reaches this point from here, it will automatically move towards this this climbable element. However, if the character reaches here and wants to jump to another climbable element or obstacle, it will use these elements from here, which are called reachable elements. And reachables are basically commute elements, but instead of automatically moving towards that new component, they would require the player to press a certain key, like for example the space key. And let's see if there's any questions. There is a question whether there is geometry attached to the climbable elements. No, everything is completely detached. So you just, in order to make a climbable element or an obstacle, all you need is this component from here. How you activate this component usually comes from, let's isolate this from here, and you have this trigger from here that makes the player activate this climbable component and makes the character attached to it. But this trigger is just an example. So you could for example, make it so that the player clicks it and activates the climbable element, and it automatically grabs it. So this geometry is just to make how to say it, for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't have any logic behind it. All the logic is handled here in the climbable component, which is a completely isolated component. It could be here, it could be somewhere else. So there is another question that when you climb, when you slide down, whether you can map a different button when you slide down or you slide up or you climb up. So that's a good question. So climbables, as I said before, are only allowed to move a character in a certain direction. In this case, it's horizontal. In the case of a ladder from here, for example, it's vertical. Let's see this ladder, because we can change the climbable. Let's see, this one is here. So this climbable from here, for example, the way you traverse it, it's all defined inside the climbable clip, which is this one from here. If we select it, we have all these options here, and the way you traverse a climbable component is via this enum here. So you have a directional, which means it's the WASD keys map to move up or down, and you have this key which is left shift to drop. If you set it to none, for example, the character won't be able to drop. Left shift. Well, anyway. And this input key to traverse, which is basically the jump button. In this case, it's space. If you are creating for a PS4 controller or Xbox One, you can map it to whatever button there is. I think it's joystick button 1, I think. Well, anyway, you just have to Google that and you'll find the answer. But for keyboard, it's space, and it's the button used to initiate the jump animation towards another reachable element. And this is the max traverse distance, which is let's imagine there is a climbable ledge here. What's the maximum distance that the character can jump from this position to the other one in order to reach that object? So let's see this now. Let's open up the prefabs, and if I, for example, get a ledge braced, for example, I can drop this one here, and if I rotate this, I think it's control, yeah, something like that. Not sure if you can see this, but there are some green lines going this way, something like this. There are some green lines coming from here and going to this position from here. So these green lines means that the character can connect from this position to this one, and I can move this and the lines will follow. But if I move too far away, as you see, they disappeared. This means that the character won't be able to jump from here to here. So if I go here, the character will jump from here to here and will also be able to jump from here to here. This offset is because I modified the prefab before, and I should have made a Ctrl Z once more in order to move this position to here. I'll fix that later. So basically how you build your levels is just dropping in your prefabs, moving them around, and allowing them to auto-connect by themselves. So if I have this ledge braced here, I can Ctrl D to duplicate it, move it down, and as you can see, there are new green lines connecting this obstacle with this one. I can do that once more. I can move this one around here, and this means that the character will be able to jump from here to here to here to here. And if I select this one and move it just a bit, it will connect automatically with these ones from here and the ladder on the left. So that's the way to build levels. Just move them around and let them connect. You can then go here and check which elements are actually connected. For example, if in your game it makes sense that this element from here doesn't connect with this one from below, this one this one, for example, from this one, you can it's the ledge braced one. You can select it, just remove it, and the character won't be able to jump from here to here. Okay. So, moving forward. Oh yeah, and basically when you move all these elements and get auto-connected, you can disable that by unchecking this auto-connect. And if I move this, they will these connections will stop happening. So maybe you prefer to do this manually. I don't think so, but I just added the option here. And that's basically it. We can go to the climbable clip to see the rest of the options and see how for example a climbing braced clip works. So we have this offset upwards and offset forward, which it's the same field that I talked about in the obstacle clip that I said that I would explain it here, and we'll just we can do that here. So offset upwards means that let me grab the player. Where is it? Here. and move it somewhere around here. Yeah, much better. So I want the player, for example, to grab this climbable element from here. But the problem is that the character should grab with his hands this line from here. But the problem is that the climbable system doesn't know where's what part of the body should the character use in order to grab something. By default, it's the root object, which is this point from here. So where the capsule connects at the bottom. A standard character usually has 2 units high, so around 50% of the height, it's the center. So this climbable braced clip has a offset of -1, so the center of the character will be aligned with this line from here. So when the character moves his hands forward, it will grab the ledge. And the same with the forward vector. It basically moves the character a bit to backwards, so the character's waist is not inside the climbable clip. Hope this makes sense. It's a bit complicated. There's a question whether if there are any conditions that can be used with the climbable system. By default, the traversal module doesn't come with any conditions so far, but based on your feedback, I can include them. And yes, you can use conditions. For example, if the player is holding a gun, you don't want him to grab a ledge, you can perfectly do that. Instead of this trigger, instead of executing this action, you could call a condition, check if the character is armed, and if he is not armed, execute the climbable action. So yeah, it's fully integrated with the whole game creator ecosystem. There is a question also if it's necessary to modify those animation controllers. No, all the animations here are provided with the module. You can use them, and I think I'm going to release them like this. So with the animation clips, and you can open them with Blender or UMotion or whatever software you use, and you can modify them if you want. So you can modify them if it makes sense for your game, or you can use the default ones. So, there's another question. Are curved ledges possible? That's a tricky question. So, for example, here you have a ledge. Let me first close all the triggers components. Okay, now, so for example, we have a ledge here that connects with this one from here, and it creates this curve. So the character will jump from here to here and will do a slight curve, but it always follows a straight line. So you can connect these two like this. So let's see. It connects them like this, but because the animation is super quick, you won't notice the character clipping through. And it also plays a jump animation, so it will just go a bit up and you won't notice the clipping. But yeah, you could create, for example, a ledge that goes this way and it would work perfectly fine. So it doesn't have to be aligned with the x-axis or z-axis. So moving forward, let's see the rest of the settings. Again, you have this ignore collision checkbox here. It's the same as the obstacles, but in this case, I would recommend against unchecking it. Although, for some reason, this is... Oh, yeah, it's unchecked. So I recommend not checking it because, for example, if a character is shooting at your player and he's, for example, climbing a ladder, if it ignores collisions, it will also ignore any shots thrown at him, so it will just basically be invincible while he's climbing. It may make sense in your game, so you have the option. The orientation is whether the climbable element is a vertical one or horizontal. In this case, for example, the ladder is a vertical one, so it means that the W key, which is mapped as a directional, it will search for elements that are above the character. If I would set this to horizontal, it would try to look for elements that are on the z-axis. The transition, it's basically the same as the obstacle clip, so you have by speed or you have by duration. In this case it's by speed. It has a speed of 8 units per second. And here are the animations, but before going to the animations, let me quickly check if there are any questions. No, so far? Okay, let's move to the animations. This is a bit more complicated, but we'll go it step by step, and it's not that complicated. So basically the climbable elements, contrary to the obstacles that make use of a single animation clip, make use of 3 animation controllers. One is the traverse, the other one is the jump, and the other one is the grab. Traverse, the traverse controller basically is a set of animations. We can see this one here. Basically, it's a set of animations where the character is standing in idle. It moves forward, it moves backwards, and also uses these animations, which these animations are, for example, when the character is leaning forward at the edge of the balance plank and wants to jump forward, or is, for example, in this ledge and it's trying to jump this ladder from here. It will try to reach with the hand a bit forward. That's this animation. This is basically this controller. Then we have the jump controller and the grab controller, which are exactly the same but with different sets of animations. The jump controller, it has a 4 definition animation clip, which control how the character jumps forward, when it jumps backwards, when it jumps to the right, and when it jumps to the left. And all these animations are smoothly blended if the character tries to jump diagonally. And the last, where was that? Here. No, not this one. Here. And the grab animation, it's like the jump, but instead of when in this animation, instead of being played when the character leaves a climbable, it's played when the character activates a climbable element. So for example, if the character is here and wants to jump to this other climbable element, it will start playing the jump animation from this ledge to the other ledge, and once it grabs this ledge, it will play the grab animations from this ledge. This may be a bit complicated, but don't worry, you don't really need to know that if you don't plan to modify all the animations. If you just want to use the traverse module, all you need to know is that there is all these prefabs here. You can simply drag and drop and they will automatically play. For example, I placed this jump one-way obstacle here. I can hit play. I can move the player here, press jump, and it will play the jump animation and then fall. But you get the idea. So, any questions so far? What about gliding or sliding on slippery terrain? So the problem with slipping is that I'm not sure if you mean like that you have some control of the player when the character is sliding. In that case, I don't think it's possible, but it may be possible in the future. Once for example, I said before that when you have a climbable element and the character, for example, is holding to this ledge, if I move this ledge at runtime, the character will still hold at this position. Once I figure out how to make the character hold on this ledge, and then if I move the ledge, the character would follow the position. then you could easily create slippery slopes, because you could make the ledge, for example, move downwards, and the character would be able to move sideways while still going down. So the answer here would be it's not possible now, but once I figure out how to do this, it should be a piece of cake. If you have the right animations, of course. So, no more questions so far. So, let me check my notes, because I'm not sure if I'm leaving something. Yeah. So, if it's okay that maybe we can modify. Well, let's jump to another example I have here. I made for this live stream, which is a very simple one. Let's not save that, and it's this one. So basically what I have here is a few geometry objects here. I have a ladder, which I just drag and drop it from the prefabs folder, and a player. If I hit play, should move this up. I can move the character, press space, move up, and reach the end of the ledge. So how this is done internally, because the ladder is quite interesting. So there is a climbable element here, which is the ladder, and then there is this, let's see, this obstacle clip here, which is set as the commute from B. So the ladder, when the character reaches the end of the ladder, it automatically changes into a mantle high obstacle, which allows the character to automatically reach the end of the ladder. And that's the power of the traversal module. It allows you to combine different elements and create interactions between them. So for example, if I didn't want the ladder, I'll just unpack this so I don't mess the example scenes. Unpack prefab completely. And if I don't want the character to automatically reach the end of the ledge here, I can remove this, hit play, go here, press space, and if I move up, the character will play the reach animation, but won't be able to climb the last step. So what I can do also is put a let's say a ledge here. Why not? Let's see, Traversal. How does that work on Windows? Okay, prefabs. I can put a ledge here, for example, a braced. I love the braced. Okay, move that here and put that around here, and maybe add a wall so that it looks good. So I have this ladder, and here I have the ledge. I'll move this a bit down, somewhere around here. And not sure if you can see it, but there's a bunch of green lines coming down from the ledge. I should probably modify this ledge, just unpack it and set the position to -1, 0 and 0, and the same from here. And as you can see, there's a bunch of green lines connecting the ladder with the climbable obstacle. So here is something that I've struggled a lot, and I'm still trying to figure out how to make this easier, but let me show you the problem. So theoretically, there are these green lines connecting this ledge with this ladder. If I hit play, the character should be able to move from the ladder to the climbable obstacle. However, as you can see, the character can't climb up. If I press space, it can climb up. Why? Because this ledge is connected to the ladder. As you can see here, it has a reachable element called ladder. However, the ladder doesn't have a reachable element called ledge braced. So there are two ways to solve this. One way is to create a new object, a new element here, and drop in the ledge. And now it should be connected, as you can see with this green line here. Or, which is my favorite trick, is to choose any direction, hold down the mouse button, control, move it a bit, and then go back. And it automatically connects with the any element that is around. So now the ladder is connected with the, the ledge, and the ledge is connected with the ladder. If we hit play now, oops, we can grab the ladder, we go up, the character can tease up, and if we press space, it will grab the ledge. We can go to the sides, can go up, there's nothing up, but we can go down, grab, slide down, and because I said before the ladder as non-droppable, I can drop off, but we can fix that very quickly. It's here, and I set this input key drop to none. I should set this to, I think it's left shift. Well, I'll set this to be, for now at least, because I couldn't find the key. So, any questions? So there's a question about rope climbing and balancing. Yes, both are possible. Basically, rope balancing would be taking the same animations from the plank balancing and put them on a tighter or smaller geometry element. That should be enough. And the rope climbing would be exactly the same as this ladder from here, and change the animations so that the character pulls a rope up. So it would be something like this, and then you could have something like this, and this, instead of being a bunch of geometry put in horizontal, you could have just a single line coming from the top to the bottom, and then the character, let's hit play. The character could come here, press space, and instead of using this animation where the character grabs these horizontal planks, it would simply grab the center of a vertical, how to call it, thread. So the animations would be exactly the same. Instead, yeah, exactly the same, the exact same logic, but different animations. In fact, the rope climbing is quite has been asked by quite a lot of people, so maybe I will add it in a future update. Let me move this back here, and everything is set. This is a very good question. So Analog Limb is asking whether you can create a system where, for example, if the character is climbing up, you could, I think it's I understood this. So you have, for example, a timer or a stamina meter that starts depleting, and when it reaches 0, the character loses grip of the climbable element. This is super easy to create because the same way you have the option to let go from a climbable element, you could, for example, I'm in the middle of this climbable element. I will see something like this, so I can use this the scene view. So the character now is climbing the ladder, and if I select the ladder and delete it, the character will let go automatically. So you could, for example, create a climbable element that when the character grabs, that obstacle waits for a few seconds, then it destroys itself You may instantiate a set of particle effects, and the character has to quickly press the space key to grab onto a ledge that it's below him. So going back to the question you asked before, because I went a bit overboard. Yes, you could for example make that's something I need to create, but it will be in the next version. So when you grab onto a climbable element, you could have a trigger that detects when that climbable element has been triggered and execute an action. That action could be a timer that starts depleting. If you're using, for example, the stats module, could start depleting your stamina. If you're not using the stats module, you could decrease or increase a local variable of type number. And when it reaches 0, you could use the action to let go of any of the obstacle that the player is currently holding on. That's the idea, because you can use the action to let go of, to instruct a character to let go from an obstacle, and if the character is holding onto something, it will let go. If he is not holding onto anything, it will simply do nothing. So that's how I would do it, and it's perfectly possible and easy, actually quite easy to do. Okay, so now that we have seen an overview of how the traversal module works, I would like to, I still have 15 minutes, and I think we'll have enough time to see how to modify the ladder animation in order to support climbing up or climbing down. So because right now when I grab onto a ladder, the character climbs up, but then when it goes down, it slides down. So what I want to do is to modify the animations so that it goes up and it goes down at the same speed and using the same animation but reversing it. So let's do that. What I would normally do, because I'm working on a backup project, what I would normally do is select the ladder prefab, duplicate it, and I would place it somewhere else. For example, I don't know how Windows works. How do you move this? Like this. Okay. So I would move it on my project folder, which would be the root of the project, for example, and I would call this ladder. I would call this ladder 2 because I'm super original. So we have this ladder. I would remove this one. I would drop this one here and move it around here. So it got connected to this climbable element from here, and now got an error because there is a missing exception here. Just remove that one, clear the console. I'll have to take a look at this and move this a bit so that it got connected to the ladder. So that's all that needs to be done. So now let's modify this ladder so that the character can climb up and climb down. So to do so, we'll have to also modify this ladder clip because all the logic is here. All these values by default work perfectly. The logic on how the animations are played inside this climbable element, what speed the character does to traverse it, it's all defined inside the ladder clip. So let's select it, let's duplicate this clip, let's move it to the root of the folder, like here, and let's call this rename 2. And on the prefab, let's drag this onto here. So now it should have the ladder clip too. Okay, all set. So what the two things we have to modify here are the animations used and the speed at which the character traverses. In this case, we can see here it says move forward speed, it's 1.5, and move backward speed, it's 4. Forward, it's from this point to here, and backwards, it's from that point towards the end. So If we want to have the same speed, we could modify this with 1.5, and if we hit play, we should be able to move up, and if we move down, it goes a much lower speed. In fact, it's the same speed as the speed that the character climbs up. So now all that needs to be done is to change the animations in order to play the same animation as it goes up, but in reverse. So to do that, I'm going to, I wanted to have the animation ready, but I thought it would be cool to showcase how the U-motion works, because it's a fantastic tool and I use it all the time. So let's go to this ladder controller here, and I should probably duplicate this one too, but for the sake of this example, I'll just work on the original ladder. So we have here animation move backward and move forward. I want to select the move forward, and I'll duplicate this one too, change the name, and this one is going to be my move backward. However, I have another animation that's called move backward, so I will just call this backward 2, following the naming standard for the new ladder. And instead of playing this animation, what I want is to play this animation backwards. So to do so, we'll just open, don't have my layout here, so I will let's see, motion editor, I have the, no, not this one. This goes here, and I also need the pose editor, which goes here. So I will create a new project of type humanoid. I will call this ladder 2, and I will import clips. Oh, because there is no rig. Okay, I will select the player. I will drop the character here, create a configuration, and now I should be able to see all the bones for my character. And I can import the ladder animation, which was, I left it here. No, where did I leave it? It's one of these ones too. This one, the animation moving backwards too. I'll just import this, import. And as we can see, the animation is moving upwards. All I want to do is select all the clips, right click, reverse, and now the character is moving backwards. I should probably also change the center of gravity, move it a bit down, maybe move it a bit to backwards, in order to make the center of gravity lower. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll just leave it like this. So what we do is export. We export the current clip, and there is no destination. Of course there is no destination. We need to change these settings. Here, clip. No, here. Yeah, right here. So this one is going to be called ladder, move ladder backwards 2. Okay, so we'll file, export, current clip, and if we go back to, something happened, whoopsie, okay, change the layout and got a bit crazy, but nothing to worry about. So now I exported the new animation, which is this one here. So all I have to do, and it goes downwards, all I have to do is modify this animation from here, that the one that says backwards, this, with the new one, which is this one. And if I'm not mistaken, I need to also bake the position, set as original, bake also the Y position, set as original, and also bake the X and Z position and set it to original. That's the way that usually works. So now that we have modified the speed and we have modified the animation clip, we should be able to click play. Activate the ladder, move up, and if we move down, it plays the exact same animation but backwards and following the same speed. It's that easy. Let me quickly see if there is any questions. Okay, so everyone has caught up. That should be all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you want more, because I've been stuck with this module for like 4 months, so maybe I don't know if I went too fast or too quick, or I was eager to get to this part, which is a bit more interesting. Or if you want to see me doing level design using this module, or doing more advanced stuff like creating rope climbings or any other stuff, please do let me know here in the comments, or reach me out in Discord. And yeah, that's it. See you very soon. Just wait a bit if you have any questions. Okay, thank you. So, I'll talk to you with on Discord. Okay.